Hi everybody, welcome to Private Midwives podcast with me, Sharon Gaemon. I am a matron here at Private Midwives. I'm also a caseload midwife and carry a caseload of my own along with all the other stuff that I do. Today we are going to be looking at breastfeeding. When did breastfeeding come into your thoughts in terms of like the end of the pregnancy, this baby's going to be born? Was it a natural feeling like you've said before about because it's family, it's normal, or, was there things about, the health benefits and, thinking with you, Kaylee, about allergies and all that kind of stuff? Was it part of your consideration as to whether you were going to breastfeed or not, or was it just a natural progression, Kaylee?
I think for me, because as I mentioned, from working in a children's hospital and seeing kind of, I guess, the extreme, in terms of how parenting, looking after a baby and, even with feeding, how it kind of can emotionally and mentally impact a mum. So for me, I was of the mindset of I'm going to really prepare myself, arm myself with as much information, talk to my friends, my colleagues, anyone I know that's breastfed and get kind of all the tips and advice. But I wasn't, I kind of felt if it doesn't work out, it's okay. I'm going to, formula feed. It's fine. So I feel like because I had that mindset, I wasn't going to be disappointed if it didn't work
Right.
out because I've seen mums, end up with postnatal depression and anxiety and just really stressed out. And I think in Ireland anyway, there's a big culture and focus on a baby's weight, and that's, I guess, from our local health nurses. They're constantly looking at it from a risk perspective that something may be
Yeah.
wrong. So definitely there's a big focus in the beginning on, is your baby gaining weight? How much weight? And I think when you are breastfeeding, and your baby isn't gaining the weight that maybe the
That
report
they
says it
expect.
should,
Yeah.
which, happened to me. And I had, with Noah was told, oh, you might have to think about giving a bottle on, he was literally like 5 days old and he was 8 pounds 6. So I knew he was fine.
Yeah.
But there's a big kind of focus on that. And I think when you're in that really vulnerable state of just after having a baby, coming home, you're learning how to breastfeed because you have to learn, your baby has to learn, that when those little things are said to you and they're worried about it, it's almost sometimes just easier to go, okay, well, I'll just formula feed and then it's fine. So to persevere with it can end up internalizing it and end up being quite traumatic for you because of how
Yeah.
you've experienced it. So I think for me, I just wanted to prepare myself with all the information and kind of it ended up really helping me. But my priority was to breastfeed, but I was also okay if I didn't have to. So I think just having that mindset that actually me being okay, my baby being okay was the priority.
I think
And
it's
it
half the
ended up
battle,
being
isn't it? It's half the battle if you don't put so much pressure on yourself, if you don't know it has to be this or nothing. That can be very difficult for everybody around you to manage as well. And for you, for the mother, the mental health, that can put so much pressure on you. So I think that's a fabulous way to look at it. I mean, Maria, what about you? Did you think about the health connotations, that all of that kind of stuff, or again, was it just something that was just going to happen and that was that?
I think I always, like envisioned, I had the envision that if I had a baby that I would breastfeed it. And like that was just something that I naturally wanted to do. And like, I don't know, even from like a basic, like from an instinct point of view, I just wanted to do that. And I thought our bodies are so amazing to be able to do that. So I'd love to do that. And then obviously with Paddy being born during COVID, it was definitely in the back of my mind that like I knew that from an immune point of view, it would be a massive benefit, to him in his first year encountering not just COVID, but like all the other things that you encounter. And I'm a nurse, like in adult cancer services, not a pediatric nurse, but like that's always probably naturally been in my head as well, just like knowing what's out there and then knowing that like my body had the natural kind of things that the baby might need to fight off infection. So yeah, that was probably definitely in the back of my head, kind of a driving force for me to want to feed as well. But I think it just came down to like a basic want to be able to do that, and a vision in my head of me doing that for my babies if I could, if it was successful, like Hayley was, if it didn't work out. I mean, I think I say if it didn't work out, I would have been okay with that. But I think I definitely would have struggled and found it very upsetting if it didn't work out, if I was being honest.
Yeah, I think that's the case for lots of women, isn't it? I mean, I want to move on to, because you've both breastfed a second time round, lots of mums that I look after as a midwife, when they're having their second baby, they worry about how it's going to be breastfeeding the second baby when they've got this older toddler now that's either still feeding or has not long given up feeding or whatever. I'd love to sort of like just delve into a little bit of your experience of what that was like. So when Theo stopped feeding, or if he was still feeding, and then Noah came along. Kaylee, what was that like for you, that experience, in terms of what it was like for Theo, if you like, just so that mums that are listening can sort of have some insight, because they do worry about this. Lots of mums worry about this.
Yeah, well, for me, so the age gap between them is 22 months. So, it was a long time since I had breastfed Theo to when Noah was born. And I think I did notice that, he would be a little bit more clingy or want to sit in beside you, or he's kind of looking to see what's going on. But he was probably a little bit young to really understand. So I guess for him, what he needed was lots of kind of, cuddles and comfort. And, I was lucky that my partner was able to take a good chunk of time off. He was off for 6 weeks. So,
Wow.
we were able to adjust to that time quite well, because obviously, a little toddler who's just under 2, he was busy and needed a lot as well. So yeah, he kind of wasn't, I guess, too put out, I would say, because he was still getting a lot of attention. But I did notice he would be kind of looking and kind of, I think, wondering what was going on. But yeah, so I think he kind of coped well. But I wonder, I think if I had still been feeding Theo, or it was only very recent, he's quite a sensitive child. So I think it would have been probably quite a different experience for him. But he adjusted well, yeah.
Yeah, I know that Maria, some children, the toddler, sometimes they revert back, or they try, and they sort of like, oh, okay, I want a bit of that. What's going on? They don't tend to like it, actually, in my experience. It doesn't taste the same. The colostrum and the early milk is not the same as what they would have finished on. But what was your experience like? Did your older little one, because I know you stopped breastfeeding your eldest one at a year and continued with your second one at 15 months. So, what was your experience with your eldest one?
Yeah, so I suppose when Sean came along, Paddy was, just turned 2, and he didn't have a memory of feeding before, so it was all new to him. So yeah, he was definitely curious, and trying to explain to him that, like, I have milk and that I give it to Sean. He was very good in the sense that he understood. He wasn't like looking to have some as well or anything like that. He didn't like want to be up on me when Sean was feeding. Sometimes he would, maybe out of curiosity, like Hayley saying, but like there was because he'd no memory of it, I suppose it made that part a little bit easier. But what was hard was then him adjusting to me constantly having Sean on me, like doing skin to skin and doing the feeding on demand. And so Paddy really struggled that I couldn't just get up off the couch and go and play or do whatever it is that he wanted to do, and that I was probably around less. I was, having a bit of a snooze every now and again, and like he was with his dad a lot more. So our relationship changed, and I found that harder than Paddy did. Like he was off with dad.
Usually the case.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to claw this back now. I'm after really, like, that was my experience going, oh my God, my relationship with Paddy now is so different, and I can't see how I'll ever be kind of in demand by him anymore, because he just didn't want me to do anything for him. He wanted his dad the whole time, which is totally natural now when I look back on it. And now obviously, like, that's not even a thing anymore. But at the time, yeah, that part was hard. that, you know, Sean was with me and he was with his dad, and that had to be the case for a while in the house.
Oh, wow, that's fabulous. Listen, ladies, I really want to thank you for joining me today. It's really important that we get out there, you know, the positive stuff too, and for people to see that, you know, it can be a bit of a rocky road, and you know, ultimately at the end of it, you know, it can work, and it can work well for people, and people can talk about their breastfeeding experience with a smile on their face, which is really important. I'm going to wrap it up now just by asking you both. I mean, I know that I don't think either of you had private midwives as midwives, but I know that you both join our are on our Instagram, on our social media platforms. You know, what brought you to private midwives in terms of like being on our Instagram and stuff like that? Was it a video that we put up? Was it something that we did? Was it something specifically about breastfeeding that we did? Or did you just sort of fall upon us? Just interested.
Well, for me, I wanted a home birth on Sean, and I was kind of excluded from the HSE home birth program because I had tested positive for strep. And so they had suggested, like, I was really keen, and they were saying to look into private midwives. So then I had a look, and I signed up to or not signed up to, but like, you know, connected on social media that way. And so I've then continued to follow then ever since. I didn't have a home birth in the end, but like, that's how I initially had found you guys.
That's fabulous. Thank you. Kaylee.
Yeah, and I think for me, it was just on Instagram. So yeah, just I think when I was pregnant and you're looking at all the advice and information out there, and I think there's a lot on the page that's really helpful. And I actually, a friend of a friend had a private midwife for a home birth as well, just locally. So there was that connection too. So
it's really good to know that our resources out there are reaching further afield, and that people are finding stuff useful. So thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing your stories today. It's hopefully going to get out there to lots of people and give them the hope that, you know, their breastfeeding journeys can be good, and, you know, there is support out there, whether it be with, you know, groups, whether it be with postnatal packages with private midwives, or, you know, whatever's out there. It's so important that they know that there's stuff out there. So I really appreciate you coming along today. For all the listeners out there, if you need to have a look at private midwives, if you're thinking about looking at our resource page, or having a postnatal package to help, we do intensive breastfeeding packages where a midwife will come in every day for a week, or we just do, you know, your normal postnatal packages, as well as obviously lots of other resources on the website and on our social media. So you can find us at privatemidwives.com for our website. You can find us on all social media platforms. You can hear the podcast obviously on all of the other platforms like Spotify, Amazon Music, that kind of thing. Our Instagram is private midwives. I think it's private_midwives actually. And then we are on TikTok as well, where we have some fun little videos and things. So please do go along and have a look. Thank you both, ladies, for and Marguerite, by the way, people. Marguerite was on holiday in Greece, and so we've said goodbye a little bit earlier to Marguerite, and thank her so much also for bringing such a wonderful insight into Black breastfeeding, you know, breastfeeding for Black mothers, and also the Transport for London Free to Feed campaign. So thank you all for coming along today. It's been fabulous having a chat. I know that hopefully when we do our next positive birth one, that I'm hoping to be able to entice both Kaylee and Maria back to talk about their positive birth story. So you may hear from them again, and everybody's. But for now, thank you very much. Bye.